Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Minute. Great to have you on board. And Carl, thanks for tuning in this afternoon. Let's go ahead and wrap up the day. And just a quick run through of our positions. Got Boeing. Boeing's up about $1.18. They've all pretty much turned and headed northward for us here this afternoon, which is a positive for them. The other one for us, Morgan Stanley. Same thing. It was a little bit lower earlier on. It came back to about where it opened today. Almost went flat, and it's up about 18 cents now. We'll take that. And then Qualcomm, one of the larger comebacks of the day, now up a dime. And reversed from being down 28, 30 cents or so. Didn't quite make it to the lows of last Friday, and has turned and gone positive for us. That's a positive thing. Now, if it ends here, we've got half an hour or so left in the trading day. If it ends here, look at there's a little candle pattern right there. And if you've been with us for a while, you know what that is. That's a little it's not a perfect one, but it has all of the ingredients of a dragonfly doji. It's a little bit of a pullback here. It's a nice spot for one of those to appear. And these are uh, little patterns for strength. And you can see them in the past. Whenever you see one, look back in the past and see how accurate they've been on the chart. Now here's a little bit of a gravestone, which worked out. Now it wasn't one of the better placings for one, but it was that towards the top. And then any dragonflies down towards the bottom. Well, here's another, it's a gravestone, but it's towards the bottom, and you can see that little pattern worked out. And I wouldn't call that a true dragonfly down here. There's a similar one right there that did not. That's just looks like it's just off your screen. Just to the right, left of, there's one about June 10th or so. It's similar to a dragonfly. I mean, a dragonfly. Sorry, and it went down for another couple days after that. Okay, but no, this is pretty bullish price action. We've got a nice uptrend. When that pattern, I'll show you over here. It's right over here. You'd have to see what it was doing beforehand, but now we got an established uptrend here, and to see a bullish candle pattern up in this area is quite positive. All right, so yeah, Qualcomm, nice comeback today. And yeah, there's a lot of comments in here about patience. And one thing I learned over the years is you set up a trade. You get in, you look at a price target, you look at your risk, how much you're willing to risk, you set your stops, and then you let it play and let it play. And most of the time when we go to exit, it's going to be that last hour, half an hour of the day, or to make a trade for that matter too. About the last hour or half an hour of the day is when because that's when we'll be able to see about how it's going to close. We're just going to be patient with it. If it doesn't hit our stops, we'll stay in the trade, right? And a lot of times it can save us. And sometimes it'll just the things get worse during the afternoon, so you exit a little bit early. But today it just kind of dropped and went sideways on us, and that's what we were hoping for, getting back up there towards that $73 area, and a nice reversal on it today. Okay, looking at the market, there's the market about break even, down zero point 0.7 for that. The risk reward max, I wasn't here when we set up that trade. Typically Jeff's going to make that a 30% risk, and the original stop was on the 7 on this. And let me go back to Qualcomm. And the reward, if he's risking 25 to 30% on a trade like that, then the reward's going to be around 90 plus if it hits the target. Let me go back to Qualcomm. Now, Qualcomm, we stayed in on this day right here, just a slight close below the 7. And then the next day, just yesterday, remember it came out, and within like 3 minutes, it went from being down about 6 cents just about to the lows. Not quite at the lows, but almost probably about that far within like 3 minutes. It just took off. We didn't have a program stop, so we ended up in the trade, which we're still in the trade on this. And yeah, now looking for this next bounce going up like that. So the king of patience, thank you. Yeah, let the trades run. I mean, if they, again, if when we set up, we'll set up. We can do a training on this, but whenever we set up a trade, we try to abide by that. And there can be variations when it runs through a stop or when it goes too far too fast. And things can change, and those are the nice ones if they head our direction. But overall, if it's not hit a stop and it looks like it still looks positive, then patient, just hang in there and see if it's going to work out. And a lot of times it can save you money, and it might, and sometimes it can cost you a little bit more money. But overall, let them play out as you lined them up to begin with, and you'll find that a lot of times they're going to work for you, even when at the darkest hours. Sometimes when it looks like, oh, this is really going against me hard, it's tough to sit through those. And every trades go against you hard. I always look at the hourly and see if it's overextended. And that's what we did on Qualcomm yesterday. We looked at the hourly and saw it very far overextended, way down below the 7-hour moving average, and looked for a little bit of a bounce. And we did get that little bit of a bounce right at the end of the day on Qualcomm last Friday. Okay, top three had Facebook. Let me get away from the hourly here. And this was a vibe bull signal. And again, it's got a bullish engulfing candle pattern, and all the averages are rising. You got the uptrending indicators. A very bullish signal here. I'd play this up to around 59. It could get to 60, but if you're going January's, it gets to 59, I'd look there. And then the other one of the top three today was Goodyear. Now this is the one I'm interested in seeing if it's going to close towards the highs. It's a little bit higher than where we looked at it last time. I'd like to see this, what we've got, half an hour left in the trading day. Close towards those highs would be it just puts more odds in the favor. It's likely to run higher, but that's what put more odds in the favor that this is ready to break here above 24 and move on towards 26, which is I'd put a target on Goodyear. So that was my top two. UNH. Now this is the one, this was one top three from yesterday, which reversed today, as a lot of the healthcare groups did today. It's off the lows here, but this is one that if it closed right here, looks like it's going to close right here, I'd exit, take that little bit of a loss, move on. Just to close below the 7, it just lessens the odds that it's ready to break higher. Doesn't mean this little bit of an uptrend here is over. It just means it's not ready to move higher. You could also look at this. I mean, there's so many things you can look at this and say, all right, I'll get a hold it till 74, which couldn't argue either, but it just brings a little bit more risk into play. But on a clear, definite close, even if it closed a little bit lower in here, it's a clear break. It's not all that close to closing below the 7. You might just want to take it and run, look for another entrance. It's just gonna could save you. Okay. Exelon. For puts, it's a little bit, I mean, look how far it gapped. I don't know if there was news on it yesterday, but it gapped and ran down. Can't see the volume because the candlestick's right in the midst of it yesterday, but I'd say two. For puts right now, it's just too extended. It's too overextended here. I would look for this to come back, work its way back towards that 7. And so I can't draw a black line, but I can draw. This is what I look for. And so if it came back up, maybe there's another day or so of this, and it comes up to the 7, and maybe even breaks through the 7, and then you get another day where it closes back below the 7 after some consolidation, then it's time for a put. Right here, there's a good chance this might run back up towards that 7. So another thing it's likely going to do here, you can see it last little bit of resistance for this. I mean, support for it was just under 27. I'll always give it 27, but it might come back up and retest that level. So a little bit of patience here. You might find a better entrance on the put side, because right now there's a good chance it might come up into this range before it rolls back over, and that takes a day or 2 or 3 to get to that level. You can see how that 7 might catch up with it, and then it push back below that area and off the 7. So the 7 catches up, it pushed back below that area, where it's breaking down, so it just locked in another level of resistance there and pushing back lower. That would be the ticket for puts. A little bit early right now. If I was in puts here, yeah, it's one of those tough calls. If you got a gain, take it and run and look for another entrance. But just a day, I mean, it's up 15 cents. It's a 0.5%. It's not a big deal for it, but too early for puts. WNR. Yeah, good question, Martin. Martin saying any steam left here. Talked about this one a little bit yesterday, and today it's just kind of adding to it. More than anything, this is bullish consolidation. See, it jumps up above the 7 like that, gets a little bit overextended. You can see it did the same thing over here, gets away above the 7, just kind of slight consolidation. This right here is nice, some nice bullish consolidation as well, just very slight moves down, but here it's just kind of going sideways. It just increases the odds of this thing wanting to run higher a little bit more. And so, man, this thing at one point was negative today. The last 2-3 days it went negative to turn almost positive the last 3 days in a row. You get a push here up off of something like that. It's set to go up to probably 45. It might, if this closed, even if it closed up here towards 43 today, it's a very bullish candle for this. I don't know if it's going to do that, but a close up here towards 43 would be very promising. This thing's ready to break out. You could even try to anticipate this. Couldn't argue that. It just adds a little bit more risk to it. Just adds a little bit more risk to it here. But, I mean, not a lot of risk. This is in a nice uptrend and looking to run higher. Dr. Carl. Growing up, and I know that we're actually partners with the Options Monster Boys, Dr. J. But whenever I think of Dr. J, and maybe you guys too, I think of Julius Erving, right? He's the man as far as the basketball player. They used to show the highlights, and he always had that reverse. Oh, I'm a big basketball fan. I got to go play ball now. Sorry. Dr. C. Thanks. Another stock I want to check in on here this afternoon is Google. It's not going to make the move. I'd like to see it. I want this thing, if I can get it, come to push up here over the 1120 mark. I mean, it's got all the signs here wanting to run higher. Pushing above 1120 is going to give you some nice confirmation. This thing could go around up to 1140 or maybe even higher. Now, the last push it did like this, shot up here from about 1060 to 1120. That's a pretty pricey move, pretty big move there. It's a higher dollar stock, so percentage wise, right? It's not as much as you might think, but a nice run here. All right, who's buying into all the Qualcomm calls? Yeah, Qualcomm down 5 cents. The reversal today, and it did the very similar thing yesterday. And I'm not worried about this little bit of a move right here if it drops like this. No, not at all. $3D. This has been a nice bullish trend here. Gave some pretty good signals here earlier on, and pullback today. It's on some volume too. Check the news. It's not that big of a pullback. It's like $5 from the high to the low here. But for a $92 stock, that's not a whole lot. Percentage wise, what, 4%? Okay, so watch this area. If I was in calls, that's one of those scary moves. It's if it closed here, really it's just kind of retesting this little bit of resistance it had over here for about 5 days. But it's on some volume. Is it going to break the 7 tomorrow and run down and do one of these things? That's just it. You don't know. There's no really bearish indications other than a day where it's dropped 4%. I check the news on it, see if there's anything out there, but I wouldn't be buying calls in here. If I was in calls, it's just one of those tough calls. You get out, do you hold it another day since it's really not breaking through 92.5? It would just be one of those questions that you get to answer as traders all the time. Nucor, okay, it's off the lows today. It came down to the 50-day moving average like that, bounced back up today. If you didn't get out, let's see, it's on some pretty light volume here today, and it did make a comeback. You'd love to see it come up here towards the $53 area and push up above that. And if this is a new low, well, you can see, here's a higher high, higher low, and then this would be another higher low. So you could got that going for you. I don't think I'd exit today if I was a Nucor. I'd watch it tomorrow. If it gets back here pulls back towards 52 pretty hard, then I'd probably get out. But the volumes are light. It made a bit of a comeback this afternoon. I don't think I'd get out yet. I'd give it another shot here to get back above 53 in the 7-day moving average. Yeah, I hear you, Martin, but right now, just looking at the charts here on WNR, not showing any weakness. It's to look at one. I'd give this the 7-day moving average before I'd get out, because really right here it looks like it's just due for another round leg higher. But if it closes below the 7, get out. Qualcomm, bear flag. Nah. Bear flags, you really want those in more of a downtrend than anything. This has just been channeling between that 74 and just underneath it. Basically, the lows of the last 2 days is where it's been channeling from. We're just right there. And the fact that this has come back off those bottoms both days it's hit this area, to me, is just signs that it's likely to consolidate here and then push higher, get back up here towards the $74 range. Yeah, the market's rolling over slightly here this afternoon. Now we're coming up on the jobs number, and I don't know, and also the Fed minutes on Wednesday. So there's a couple things here that might be a little bit of concern for the market. Really, I don't think the reports are going to be that big a deal for the market once we got through the tapering thing. I guess we'll hear more about how that went come the Fed notes on Wednesday, but we'll see. I mean, the market really hasn't had much to drive it one way or another. Hasn't nothing, no real worries out there. The jobs number and Fed minutes, not that big of worries, but they'll pay attention to it. So we'll see. Twitter comeback today, well off the lows. It got downgraded by a couple firms out there today. And the fact that it's come back, it's battling that 7-day moving average, like it's going to close about right on it today. Really not that bearish of a move to get a couple downgrades, and then to see it was downgraded to an underweight by Morgan Stanley, and CRT Capital also downgraded it as well. And Morgan Stanley set a price target at 33. Ouch. Trading at 65. But really, this is not. If I was in calls here, I wouldn't be getting out. I'd just watch this and see if it can't get up through that 7 tomorrow. I might even do it by the end of the day here. So for Vertex Pharmaceuticals, I look at the volume here, but it's really squeezed out by this giant spike of over 40 million right here. You can hardly see the volume there. But it's pretty decent volume here today. It's up at the 50-day moving average in the volume. Nice move. I don't know if it got any news on it or what, but gaps higher, ran down to 7, turned and run positive. This is a very positive candle right here. This thing might break up into the $78 area. It's a nice looking. It's not really a vibe or a trend rider type of an entrance, but it's chart wise, candlestick wise, is a very strong signal that the thing's ready to break higher. Dollar General, yeah, close here. It's clear break below the 7 and a clear break below the open on the day that we got in, that I put this on my top 3, it would be time to exit. Yeah, and you could also say, well, it's holding 60, want to run up. I mean, you always get to make those arguments. And a clear break below the 7, I'd probably just exit and look for another opportunity to get back in. First Solar, yeah, this got downgraded from a buy to a sell by Goldman Sachs, and had a big volume, gap lower and ran lower. Just a bearish looking chart. It might try to hold. At this point, 50 would really be the next level, a bit of support below it. It's gone through 52, which is a little bit over here in October. It's on some big volumes. Things changed today on Facebook. I mean, on First Solar, when it got that downgrade, pretty stiff downgrade today. And it's the last time a solar stock will be on my top 3. So can't trust those. All right. Oh, the hourly chart. Okay. Yeah, well, you can see that here in the hourly, let me zoom in on this. It had very similar price action over here yesterday on Friday, right, where it runs up, pulls back. If this is the low, you can also argue that we're setting higher lows for this, and the next round's higher. So not, it's going to have to break down here below that before I get too worried about Qualcomm and a bear flag right through here. Yeah, another pharmaceutical. They were upgraded by Citi. A lot of these were upgraded by Citi, and that they did nothing. Goldman Sachs downgraded, and they did everything. And I'm not sure, as far as Goldman Sachs, if they downgraded this one, but a lot of the pharmaceuticals today sold off when there's actually positive upgrades on them. But if I was long on a trade on this would definitely clear close below that 7. It's time to get out. Take the loss and look to trade it. If it comes back above the 7, look for another trade there, or run out, go elsewhere. It was upgraded by Citi, yeah. Citi, they upgraded quite a few of them today, but Goldman Sachs rules when it comes to that. They didn't. I don't know if they actually downgraded VRX, but they downgraded Celg, and yeah, Celg sold off hard today too. Tesla. It's been a while since I looked at Tesla. As far as any type of a bullish trade on Tesla here, I'd want this to get it back above 150 and back above that 7-day moving average. This is actually a pretty bearish sign. So see, it drops below the 7-day moving average. Today went up to it, pretty much got up to it again and pushed back down off of it. Also off the 150 mark, gets below 150, can't seem to get up through it, and today pushes down off 150. It's pretty bearish. It's trying to hang on to the 20-day average here. I'm just looking to see if the 20 has actually been any decent levels of support or resistance on it. It's fair. Didn't do much in here, but if it gets through that 20, it's probably coming down to about the 140 mark, to that lower Bollinger Band. But right now, calls would be out of the question. If anything, I'd look at puts. But even here, I'm not. It's not like a really nice setup that's telling me which way this is going to go. I'd probably find a nicer looking entrance. I was going to go short on it. Boeing, yeah, we're up 99 cents. Fine, no bearish action there. That's off the highs. Most stocks are off the highs today, so I'm not worried if our stocks are off the highs. Up 11 cents. Morgan Stanley up 12 cents in a little while. This is a nice finish for our positions here today, so I'm not worried about them at all. In fact, one thing that I noticed today, and I've been chatting with Jeff, and he pointed this out to me. If you look through all the sector spiders, like you look through utilities, I won't go through all of them. You notice how it's trading below the 7? Look at XLE below the 7, XLP below the 7. Then you look at XLF above the 7. It's the only sector that's above the 7-day moving average. So we're in a pretty good spot there in Morgan Stanley. Also, the financials doing well is a good thing, a positive for the market. As the old saying out there, as go the financials, so goes the market. Well, they've been outperforming the market the last 2 days in a row. I look at the market down 2, so the market's pulling back, coming back a little bit off the lows, down 3 just a little while ago. So, really, these slight pullbacks in the market like this are more bullish in nature than anything. It's below the 7, but we're not getting any big sells. Where I might start to look to go short, and we're probably going to start seeing more bearish triggers out there as far as signals, bearish signals, is if this market starts to drop back down there towards 1820 and starts to break 1820, then we'll probably start to see a lot more bearish signals. Been looking at for bearish signals ever since I've been back. Last Thursday on, there's just not a lot of them, and the bearish signals that there were on stocks that were in or are not good bearish signals. They were on stocks in some big uptrends, and all of a sudden you had one good down day, and that's not a good enough bearish signal. So I think we're sitting in a pretty good place. KRE. So I don't know if you're bullish or bearish on KRE. One thing, this did drop a clear close below the 7 right here. Okay, now this is what you got to watch for. So if I get rid of that, now you look and say, all right, this is bullish consolidation, right? Because I can look, hey, it got away from the 7, starts to pull back very slightly. Now it reached a turning point right here. Where the doji, if it bounced up off of that point right there, hey, you got a nice uptrend more likely to continue. The fact that it gapped below the 7 and ran lower, well, that just changed the bullish nature of the trade right there for me. Not only that, it's dropping below 40 today, which is one of those levels you don't want. That should be decent support or resistance for it. Well, it's dropping through it. Now the volumes aren't that big. Had some huge volume here on that day. And that's one of the things that's probably helping to propel it down through this $40 level. To stay bullish, man, it's got to close here, back here above 40. I don't know if that's going to happen with the amount of time it got left in the day today, but yeah, I couldn't argue on puts here, but there's no way I'd be hanging out if I had calls. It just doesn't, that break of 40 and that past level of resistance right there coming back through it, it just weakens the trend right here for me. And also, if I draw a trend line, well, there's not a clear trend line. I guess there's a better one if I draw it right up through here. So it's breaking out a couple things here. It's breaking on the recent trend line since October, breaking below that, breaking below 40. It's got some stronger volumes. It just weakens the bullish, any type of a bullish signals that you're getting here on KRE. JKS. Hey, yeah, some of the solar stocks are doing really well. I don't know if the money's coming out of First Solar, going into the others, but nice looking trigger and strong volumes. It's breaking up above. So what it did today, it opened above prior resistance up here, and it ran above it. It ran $2. It gapped probably $1.50 or so higher and ran $2 from that. Strong volumes, very bullish in nature right here. I wouldn't get out if I was in this trade. I wouldn't get out. It's a little bit late to get in. It's gapped and ran so far away from the 7. There's a chance here of some consolidation. It's about over $2 away from the 7. Chance here some consolidation. Yeah, you could say I could take half off here and see if it keeps going, because it doesn't mean it's going to just pull right back to it. The fact that it's so far away from the 7, but just rises the odds of some consolidation, or that it might pull back towards the 7. Okay, but again, right now it's still in the upper Bollinger Band here. It's trading basically outside the band on strong volumes. Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to taking half off and seeing where the rest goes. Yeah, Jimmy, this pretty bearish. This thing breaking through 40 like that, coming back up to the 7 today and pushing back off below it and below 40. Yeah, if I was bullish here, I don't know if I could. I don't know if I'd stay in there. FDX, bearish engulfing pattern. Does it have a lot of volume on it? Yeah, it's got a lot of volume. Now, bearish engulfing candle pattern here. So it gapped higher up to the 142.5 mark, has turned and run lower. Kind of the same thing. We're just looking at KRE. Had a big number of 40. Well, this big number here is 140. So you can look at it this way as well. I mean, not just with the bearish engulfing candle pattern. You look at here at the RSI breaking down below. I just erased that. Breaking below 50, which is a bearish signal here. On this day right here, you can see we're at a strong break of the 7. And if it stops at 7, well, that's one of those strong breaks. You can get it. But, that's one of those that's kind of hard because it's holding 140, and you think maybe I'll hold on to it. I mean, I know all the reasonings. I've been there, done that many times. But today it gaps higher and then turns around and runs back down below the 7 and below 140. It's pretty bearish. I don't know if I couldn't argue going puts here. Now this has had a little bit of news on it today, but no, there's a lot of support underneath it here, 130. I couldn't go puts, but if I was bullish on this, I don't know if I could stomach much more. That's a pretty bearish chart, and the volumes are increasing here. So the odds here, this thing comes down to the lower Bollinger Band. That's where I'd see it. JetBlue. Big reversal. Whenever I think of JetBlue, I got a nephew that used to work for these guys as he was going to college. But this is one of those. I mean, look at that huge up day. Last Friday, big day for it. Big, pretty good volumes. Runs up a big reversal right at 9. Pulls hard. It's coming. It's right at the 7. So this is one of those. Well, it's probably going to close above the 7. It's likely to. It will close above the 7. Do you stay in it on a day like that? That big reversal. Those are questions that we could answer as traders. Do you stay in it? Well, it's above the 7. Yeah, I could say, you're staying in it. I could see that. Big volume, big reversal like that. It's kind of scary to stay in it, isn't it? And so these are the ones that, if I'm in a trade like that, it's always a tough one. I always try to give it the benefit of the doubt that, it's still above the 7. But I can see the other side of it too, where it's a strong reversal. It's just, and at this point, really the technicals are kind of blown. You got a big day up and a big day down. Well, now what? The technicals aren't going to tell us a whole lot. This would be more, I hope it goes higher tomorrow. If it breaks the 7, well, get out. But it's just a tough call from here and what it's going to do tomorrow after the last 2 days. They're pretty significant moves. Remember last week Jeff gave a training on, what's significant, what's not. Well, these 2 days are both significant, and you get back-to-back days like that. It's tough to read it from here. It's got to settle down, and really show me the cards from here. Oh, was that the big red candle? I didn't catch the news on it. So yeah, if there's some kind of news on that, then just looking at it technically, it's kind of scary. But I'd check the news on it. It didn't sell off below the last level of resistance there at 860. That's the one thing it's got going for it. It's still above the 7. But if there's some pretty big news on it, it could follow through to tomorrow. The selling could come through till tomorrow. So it would be, it's a tough call if you want to hold it or not. GM, what a comeback. Gaps higher. We came back to almost hit that lower Bollinger Band there and shot back up off of it. It's holding 40, which is a number that you'd want it to hold. If you're bullish here, you want it to try to hold 40. Now it broke it on Friday on some big volumes to come charging back today. If I was bullish here, I'd stay in, hope it breaks up through the 7 come the coming days here. If I'm bearish, I'd get out. Well, it's still below the 7. But that big reversal on that big number of 40 is a positive for it. That's a bullish sign to see a reversal on a bigger number like that. Buyers did not want to keep this below 40. They stepped in big time today. Let's check in on Facebook again. Yeah, still a nice move here on Facebook. A bull vibe signal. So bring in the market just closed, looks like. Well, it's stock charts here. My computers are running a couple minutes behind it, I guess. Market just closed. It was a nice looking signal there on Facebook. Yeah, on the hourly chart here on FedEx. So this is some consolidation back towards the 7. And so it's going to come to a point, it's either going to bounce back down off the 7 on an hourly. Now it's got the Bollinger Bands are all right. Hang on a sec. Bollinger Bands are contracting here, so it got that going for it. That a lot of times that's a level of support for it underneath like this. But it's gonna, as it hits that 7, it's either gonna bounce up through it, which would be a positive for it, or bounce back down off of it, which would be the negative. Now the bell is just going off, yet stock charts stopped a little while ago. It's interesting to see stock charts stop a little bit ahead of time. Yeah, I can argue wait until tomorrow. I mean, it's too late now, right, Martin? Sorry. BSX. That's an hourly. Look at this on a vibe. So this is the one that gapped higher today, has run back a little bit. Now a black candlestick, they're not that accurate, but it represents an area of weakness. So what I'd watch for here, if I'm not in the trade, if I'm in it, well, you're in it tonight anyways. I couldn't argue staying in. But it gapped over prior resistance from this level over here. You'd want 12.5 to hold. You don't want it to come back here, fill this gap, come back to the 7. If 12.5 can hold, so let's say it comes back for a day or two, and the 7 catches up with it, and then you see it, a push up here back over 12.5 and a nicer candle like that, then that would be a nice bullish signal. It gapped up. If you're in the trade, I wouldn't worry about it, but just that could happen. It could come back a little bit. Just watch 12.5 to hold and then play it higher. Alaska Airlines. I was looking at this one earlier today. It was up in the day. It's just a little bit of a pullback. It had a bull vibe signal right over in this range right here. The average is rising. Right now you got a positive MACD signal. Watch for 74 to hold. If 74 can hold and you get a big push off of that, or even down towards the 7, you get a push back up off of it, then play it bullish. But right now there's no entrance. If I had calls on this, I'd give it the 7-day moving average. And also you got the 50 above the 7 right now, so you got some little bit of support down there. You see it's been trying to hold on to the 50 now for quite a while, as well as the 7. So watch it. If you get a move like that, then it'd be a better signal to try to get in than right now. Okay, BSX got upgraded. Yeah, well, just watch it and see if it gives you a better signal to get in if you're not already in it. If you are, I'd still hold it. As far as a bull kicker, whenever they gap like that, I have to let them settle down. I give them 2-3 days or more, sometimes a week to settle down, and then look for another entry. If it starts to run higher off of 12.5, somewhere around that range, then it'd be a lot more interesting to me than clear up like this. Okay, everybody, thanks for tuning in today. Let's just run back and look over our positions, see how they all closed. Up 78 cents on Boeing. We'll take it. Morgan Stanley up a dime. We'll take that too. I mean, most stocks pulled back today. And then Qualcomm down 19 cents. Okay, so we'll watch Qualcomm tomorrow. It's still not that big of a concern that it closed where it did. We'll watch it in the morning. If it gets down towards Friday lows, we're going to take it and run. But the fact that it pulled back up during the day was a positive. It just sold off a little bit at the end, which is fine. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you first thing in the morning. Okay, bye-bye.